Rogelio will remember this guy, but he was a center fielder by the name of Milt Kyler. So he was the center fielder who took over after Chet Lemon, and he was a speed demon. I want to say he stole 50 bases one year. I mean, let me check his stats real quick. But yeah, I mean, I grew up loving kind of power speed outfielders. As I think a lot of people do. You know, back in the 80s, it was guys like Darryl Strawberry and Eric Davis and Ricky Henderson and Jose Canseco and all those dudes. And Kyler was just this really fast dude who covered a ton of ground in center field. And he had a really good, I don't know if it was his rookie year but it was definitely his second season in the majors. I just don't know if he was still considered a rookie. But that was it for him. So yeah, that year he hit 257, not great, but he stole 41 bases and he was not a power hitter. He got 3 home runs. But still, I was way into the speed back then. So it's like, oh, this guy is going to be an all-star center fielder. And that was it for him. That was by far his best season. I think he was in the minors the next year. And he hung around for a couple more seasons up until 98. But, yeah, never really amounted to anything. And that was a bummer because I had high hopes for that kid.
I'm going to go with Bruce Rondon.
Oh.
Yeah, so, I mean, he was going to fix our bullpen. I mean, you did pretty well in 2013. Looks like you had 30 games, 1.22 ERA plus. Helped our bullpen, I guess, down the stretch there. I think 2014 he got hurt, and in 2015, I think he was just sidelined by a bunch of injuries until 2017. I think 2017 they replaced Bruce Rondon with Jimenez. And then Jimenez obviously went on to have a great all-star year that year. And then Bruce Rondon was never heard from again. I think he went to AAA, failed there. Then I think the White Sox picked him up to end his career. But yeah, never fixed the bullpen.
Mine is Brennan Bosch. So Brennan Bosch was like my first favorite player growing up. And I remember, I believe he won Rookie of the Month in his 2010. But he got off to a really, really hot start. I remember his first major league home run was a grand slam. And, his rookie season, he was pretty good, 736 OPS. But I think things were, he was expected to grow from that. And unfortunately, he never really did. Kind of fizzled out of the league at just 28 years old. And I just thought, as a left-handed hitter, hitting in front of Miguel Cabrera for some of those great Tigers teams, I really saw him as a potential all-star for us, and it just never really turned out that way. And I was pretty shocked by it, honestly. I thought he was going to be really, really good.
There's a couple guys that come to mind, but one in particular for me, I mentioned this on Twitter, was Melvin Nieves. Now, Melvin Nieves was an outfielder for the Tigers for just 2 seasons, 1996 to 1997, and he came with a lot of pedigree. He was originally a high prospect for the Braves, then he was traded to San Diego, and as part of the Randy Smith shuffle, if you will, Randy Smith always loved trading for players that he admired from afar, and Melvin Nieves fit that. He was a power-hitting outfielder, supposed to shore up everything, and he never did.
I mean, yeah, I remember the hype around Stephen Moy going back to when he was in A-ball. They were people were super excited to see him in the home run derby in the Midwest League All-Star game. And in batting practice, he just went up there and started batting. He was batting right-handed for some reason, just for fun. And there was a bunch of weird stuff. They're like, what's going on here? And he was a dude who actually came up, I think, as a karate student. That was his first sport. And then he got into baseball after that. And there's a lot of interesting things about him, but man, couldn't ever stop striking out. And that's how he ended up overseas.
Yeah. One recently I was debating with over Bosch was Daniel Norris. I thought he was going to be really, really good because you had Boyd and Fulmer and Norris that you all got. I thought Norris was going to be really, really special for them. And he's just been a below average pitcher, I feel like, most of his career.
Chris and I got in a debate about that once on a podcast where I said Matthew Boyd was going to have a better career. He said Daniel Norris did. Was going to.
Yeah, I mean, in Norris, back in those days when he first came up, he was throwing upper 90s. He had a home run in his first ever at bat in the majors. It was super cool. And then he got hurt later that game, I think. And that's kind of his career at a microcosm. He kept getting hurt, kept getting injured. His velocity is down to like 92 now. And he never ironed out his mechanics. But yeah, I mean, that dude had a world of talent. And you see, he's still a tremendous athlete. It's just like, for whatever reason, he couldn't put it all together. And yeah, it's definitely disappointing. And Roger was right. Matthew Boyd ended up becoming a more reliable starter by far.
Well, the last one before I forget too is Nate Cornejo, because a big thing for you, everybody makes a big deal about wins. Wins used to be such a valuable stat that everybody talks about wins. And Nate Cornejo was a guy who was lighting up the Tiger minor league system, and he was the ace, the quote unquote ace of some of the minor league staffs that they had. And he came off a season where in 2001, at the age of 21, he was 16-3 between what was known as then Toledo and Erie. He was 12-3 in Erie, just racked up, and then he was 4-0 in Toledo. And everybody's excited, like Nate Cornejo is going to be the next thing. And then didn't have much. It wasn't much of a strikeout pitcher, but yeah, everybody's hung themselves up on wins. And so that 16-3 record blinded people. I remember Lynn Henning very excited about the second coming of Nate Cornejo.